glowed red in the dark. Prince Kambili's laugh echoed around us, cold and sharp like a blade. We all knew it was dangerous to look him in the eyes, but it was even worse to run. I was just a young boy then, living in Umogwe, a quiet village. We heard stories about Prince Kambili from the elders. They said he was once a kind boy, but his heart had been cursed by greed. He had taken the throne at a young age, and with each year, he grew darker and crueler. People whispered that his power didn't come from any good place. One night, he came to our village. We saw his warriors first, standing around the trees, silent and still. No one dared to move. My mother whispered to me to stay hidden, but I was too curious. I peeked from behind a tree, and that's when I saw him, the prince himself, dressed in black robes that seemed to swallow the light around him. Kambili had come for a ritual. The night was dark, with only a silver of moonlight breaking through. He brought out a clay pot filled with a dark liquid. One of his warriors grabbed a goat from the nearby pen and forced it to kneel before the prince. Prince Kambili whispered something to the animal, and then, with a sharp knife, he drew a thin line across its neck. The goat didn't even make a sound as its blood spilled into the pot. The smell of blood filled the air, thick and heavy. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could feel the urge to run, but my legs felt frozen to the ground. Kambili dipped his fingers into the pot, coating them with the dark liquid. Then, with a slow twisted smile, he smeared it across his own face. The silence in the village was deafening. No one dared to breathe or move, as if we were all caught in a nightmare that might get worse if we woke up. Lifted his hands to the sky, chanting words I'd never heard before. His voice was low and raw, like a drum beat that shook through the night air. Suddenly, the ground beneath us trembled. The trees around us swayed, as if they too were afraid. I felt the earth shift, and I grabbed the tree trunk beside me to keep from falling. Kambili's voice grew louder, and the wind picked up, swirling the leaves around him. His warriors stood still, watching him with blank faces, like they were used to seeing this horror. Then, without warning, Kambili turned his gaze towards where I was hiding. His eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a cold chill run down my spine. It was like he could see right through me, straight into my thoughts, my fears. A smile twisted on his lips as he took a step in my direction. I tried to pull back, to disappear behind the tree, but my body wasn't listening. Kambili's eyes held me in place, like he was drawing me closer, without even lifting a finger. My breathing grew shallow, and I felt the world around me shrinking. Everything fading except for those terrible eyes. that wicked smile of his. "You there," he said, his voice like ice. "Come forward." My legs moved on their own, taking one slow step after another, until I was standing just a few feet away from him. The smell of blood and something worse filled my nose, and I felt like I might faint. Kambili looked me up and down, his eyes studying me, like I was some creature he'd found in the dirt. "What's your name, boy?" he asked. My name is Obinna," I managed to stammer. "Obinna," he repeated, his voice mocking. "Do you know why I'm here tonight?" I shook my head, not trusting myself to speak. I could feel the eyes of the villagers on me, everyone too afraid to move, too scared to help. Kambili chuckled, a low menacing sound that made my stomach twist. "I'm here to take what's own to me," he said. "And you, Obinna, have seen too much." My heart felt like it would leap out of my chest. The words he spoke hung heavy in the air, making me feel trapped, like there was no escape. I wanted to scream, to beg, but my voice was gone, stolen by fear. Kambili raised his hand, his fingers still wet with the dark liquid from the pot. He reached out slowly, as if savoring the terror on my face. My eyes darted around, looking for anyone brave enough to step forward. But the villagers were like statues, too terrified to make a sound. "You have seen what you shouldn't, Obinna," he whispered, his hand now just inches from my face. "And now, you belong to me." A strange coldness wrapped around my body, like invisible chains binding me. I felt my strength slipping away, my mind clouding with shadows. Kambili's fingers touched my forehead, and instantly, a sharp pain shot through me, like fire and ice all at once. I could see flashes, dark forest, strange figures, shadows moving in twisted forms. "You will carry my mark," he said, his voice blending into the horrible images filling my mind. "Wherever you go, I will follow." Suddenly, he released me, and I collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. My vision was blurred, but I could still see his mocking smile. Prince Kambili turned back to his warriors, wiping his hand on his robe, as if he had just touched something filthy. "Take him to the edge of the forest," he ordered his guards. "Let the spirits decide if he's worthy of life." Two of his warriors grabbed me by the arms and dragged me through the village. My legs were too weak to resist, and my mind was spinning with fear and pain. I glanced back at the villagers, hoping someone would step forward, but they turned their faces away, their eyes filled with shame and terror. The warriors pulled me, their grips like iron, dragging me down the dark path that led to the edge of the forest. Every step felt heavier, like my body was sinking, each footfall echoing in my head. The villagers' houses faded behind us. Their dim lights disappeared as we moved further away. The night seemed darker here, thicker somehow, and the sounds of the forest grew louder, a warning of what lay ahead. When we reached the forest edge, the warriors threw me onto the cold ground. I lay there, too weak to rise, every part of me aching from their rough handling. I tried to push myself up, but one of the warriors pressed his foot against my back, forcing me down. "Stay down, boy," he sneered. "This is where you belong." They both looked at each other, a cruel glint in their eyes. One of them pulled out a small wounding mark, painted in dark colors. He placed it on the ground in front of me, its hollow eyes staring back at me with an empty, hungry gaze. "These marks will watch you," the other warrior said with a grin. "The spirits here, they like new souls. Let's see if they want yours." With that, they turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving me alone at the forest edge with nothing but the marks and the darkness surrounding me. I tried to calm my breathing, to steady my mind, but the silence was overwhelming. I felt like a prisoner, abandoned and helpless. Then suddenly, I heard a low whispering sound coming from the marks, like wind passing through the leaves, but closer, more alive. The mark's eyes seemed to glow faintly in the dark, its hollow stare growing sharper. I backed away slowly, my heart racing. Then, as if from nowhere, the whispering turned into laughter, soft, mocking laughter that sent chills down my spine. The laughter grew louder, filling the night air, echoing through the trees. I clamped my hands over my ears, desperate to block it out. But the sound seemed to crawl into my mind. My body trembled, every instant telling me to run. Yet, my legs wouldn't obey. Then I saw it. Shadows moved around me, twisting and forming shapes that looked almost human, but their bodies were misshapen, their eyes hollow and empty like the marks. They circled me, their laughter mixing with faint whispers. I could barely understand what they were saying, but I caught pieces. Was like lost, taking his, each one dripping with malice. One shadow leaned in close, its face inches from mine, and I could see nothing in its eyes but darkness. It raised a finger, long and thin, pointing at my chest. "You wear his mark," it hissed, its voice like dry leaves scraping together. "You are his own now, boy." I stumbled back, clutching my chest, as though I could somehow remove whatever curse Kambili had placed on me. The shadows followed, their laughter growing louder, mocking my fear. They danced around me, faster and faster, until I was surrounded, unable to see the forest. The village, nothing but darkness and their hollow faces. Then the marks on the ground began to glow brighter, casting an eerie light that sliced through the shadows. The figures paused, their eyes fixed on the marks, almost as if they feared it. The laughter stopped, replaced by a thick silence. My breathing slowed, and for a moment, I thought I might escape. But then, the marks lifted off the ground, floating slowly towards me, its empty eyes locking onto mine. My heart dropped. I couldn't move. I couldn't even scream. The marks came closer and closer until it was right before my face. Its voice, low and cold, whispered, "You cannot run, Obinna. You are born to him now." Without warning, the mark lunged forward and everything went dark. I felt something cold pressing into my skin, wrapping around me, filling me with a darkness I'd never known. The coldness seeped deeper into my bones, swallowing every part of me until I couldn't tell where I ended and the darkness began. The mark's voice filled my mind, repeating those chilling words, "You are born to him now." Then, just as quickly as it had wrapped itself around me, the darkness lifted. I found myself lying on the ground at the forest edge. The marks nowhere in sight. The night was silent, too quiet, as though every sound had been swallowed by what had just happened. I sat up slowly, my whole body trembling, my heart pounding like a drum. I looked down at my hands, trying to steady them, but that's when I saw it. On my palm, burned into my skin, was a mark, a twisted black symbol, the same one I had seen on Kambili's face when he snared the goat's blood. Panic flooded me as I tried to rub it off, but it was useless. It was part of me now, etched deep into my flesh. A voice, faint but unmistakable, echoed in my head. "Wherever you go, I will follow." I scrambled to my feet and ran back to the village, stumbling through the dark, desperate for the safety of home. But when I reached the village, something was wrong. It looked different, darker, as if a shadow had settled over it. I approached my mother's hut, relief filling me at the sight of our door. But just as I reached for the handle, I heard voices inside. My mother, my father, whispering in fear. I saw him. My mother's voice trembled. "Obinna, he had Kambili's mark." My father's reply was heavy with sorrow. "Our son is lost to us. The prince has claimed him." I opened my mouth to scream, to tell them I was here, but no sound came out. I looked down and saw that my skin was fading, growing translucent, as if I were becoming one of the shadows I had seen in the forest. In horror, I stepped back, watching my own hands disappear before my eyes. I tried to scream, to run, but it was no use. I heard was Kambili's laughter, echoing through my mind as I faded completely. Born to the darkness, a shadow lost forever. And to this day, on the darkest nights in Umogwe, they say my shadow roams, marked by the wicked prince, waiting for another so brave or foolish enough to look into Kambili's crossed eyes. Hi besties, thank you so much for stopping by and watching this chilling story to the end. Now, I have to ask, have any of you ever experienced something strange or spooky like this? Maybe a night where you felt like you weren't alone. Perhaps a strange mark that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Or maybe, just maybe, you have come across someone with eyes as haunting as Prince Kambili's. I would love to hear all about your experiences in the comment section. Let's keep the conversation going. I know I'm not the only one who loves a good scare. Thank you so much for being here. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our next thrilling tales. I will see you in our next video. Bye!